as Daniel said.
We hear you. Tonight. I mean, we started long ago. If you are now waking up,
we started. So we say we are world champions, whatever.
Manchester United match now. Our season starts tonight.
Oh, you say, "But you say only akwala kokotochia."
Achibiashe
nisa. Yeah, mama gap kakra. The speed there, baro. Kwame, how are you doing?
I'm okay, brother. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fantastic.
Have you had a good week?
Yeah, so far so good.
I think we should start some diaries from the consulting room. You should tell us some of the interesting things that happened in your week, in the consulting room. You know?
Yeah, it would be quite, but I don't think you guys can bear it.
You think so?
Yeah. If
we'll go bald if we did.
The kind of things that we hear, in the consulting room, and you have to keep all of it to yourself. And yeah, it's a lot of interesting human stories.
Right.
And I like it for one reason, because it helps me sort of like keep in touch.
Okay.
I hear new slang all the time.
Okay.
What's going on in town?
Okay. Yeah.
Especially when you get younger patients,
yeah.
and they discuss what their health challenges are. It puts you in touch with the world.
Okay.
Because
good stuff.
It's so easy to be trapped in my generation and think that, well, the world looks like the way you think it looks like, but have a conversation with a 16-year-old and it's a totally different world out there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure when parents hear what they are telling us, they go like, no, it's not true. So maybe we'll think about that, doing something like that, sharing some consulting room stuff.
At least there's a 16-year-old that you met, or it wasn't a 16-year-old.
Yes, she is. Maunyo, and I know Maunyo is listening right now. Yeah. Well, Kwame, Maunyo says she is the youngest listener of the show.
Okay.
She is an ardent listener. She never misses a show. And she's a student at Methodist Girls Secondary School in Manfi, Equiapim, McGee's.
Okay.
And yes, we met yesterday in the consulting room. And
awesome.
Yes,
we're glad we have a young fan in Mawunyo.
Yes.
Who's at McGee's, right?
McGee's, yes. Yeah. Methodist Girls Secondary School.
Well, shout out going on to you, Mawunyo, and your family.
Right.
Today, we're going to talk about a very, very delicate issue, and I would want to share with you one of the challenges of our listeners. Right. If you're ready, Doc.
Yeah, let's go.
So, Lexis, I recently became a mother. It has been a life-changing experience. The entire pregnancy and delivery process was a steep learning curve for me and my husband. I thank God for my life and our little angel. I'd like to share my unique experience with you and the Drive Doctor, as well as the many listeners of Drive Time. So my husband and I attended a visit to a doctor friend 2 years ago. That's two years into our marriage, actually, to discuss our intentions of having a baby. And he took us through a counseling session and later requested a few lab tests to make sure I was okay to carry a baby. He gave the green light and we started trying. I mean, within 3 months, I was pregnant and started the antenatal clinic with an obstetrician gynecologist that he recommended. At some point during the second trimester, my doctor informed me my belly was growing ahead of the age of the pregnancy and therefore ordered a special diabetes test. Okay. I do not readily recall the name. However, I was given a glucose drink and made to wait. I was surprised when the OBGYN informed me later that I had developed diabetes.
Right.
This was the reason why my baby was growing too big. She discussed other possible complications as well and mentioned I'll not be able to push my baby out, but will need surgery. To say the last week of my pregnancy was difficult would be an understatement. Why did I develop diabetes during my pregnancy when the only person I know in my family with diabetes is a grand aunt? Why did it not show in any of the tests that I did before the pregnancy? Was I too young at 29 years to have developed diabetes? Why do healthcare professionals or even other women don't ever talk about this condition?
Right.
Well, let the doctor throw some light on this issue.
Right. So, Kwame, that's our case discussion for today, diabetes and pregnancy. And from where I sit, we see quite a number of women who experience this condition. but maybe we don't get to talk about it as much as we do other conditions in during pregnancy. So today, let's talk about it. Well, I mean, diabetes is one of the major non-communicable diseases and globally, and then in this country as well. It is a big problem. So many people with diabetes. So diabetes in pregnancy, the technical term we use is gestational diabetes mellitus, GDM. And this is defined as high blood glucose or hyperglycemia that is first diagnosed in pregnancy.
Okay.
All right. So that's the catch phrase, first diagnosed in pregnancy. And it increases the risk of complications for both the mother and the baby during the pregnancy. Like other types of diabetes, gestational diabetes affects how the body cells use glucose. Okay. So that's the whole thing about diabetes. And Kwame, I'm going to be very deliberate about using the word glucose instead of sugar, because we've called it sugar for too long. Every time we have to then try and get people to understand that it is not the sugar they put in their Hausa cocoa in the morning. It is estimated that 7% of all pregnancies are affected by this particular condition. Although it's very difficult to get an accurate figure because the mode of testing is very different depending on the jurisdiction you find yourself in. But 7% is the projected figure. Once you have a mother develops gestational diabetes, it also increases their risk of developing what most people would know as type 2 diabetes later on in life. Now, Kwame, why does it, or how does it come about? Well, medical scientists and doctors still don't know why some women develop gestational diabetes and others don't. The science is not so clear. But we know that glucose levels in your blood largely regulated by a hormone we call insulin.
Right.
And the problem in diabetes is always poor production of insulin or non-production of insulin, or inefficient use or function of insulin. So it's always one of these things. So the problem really is not the glucose, although it is glucose levels that really goes high and then causes all of the problem. But the real underlying cause of it is something has gone wrong with insulin. So we believe that during pregnancy, the levels of this hormone changes and you're not able to produce as much as you should. The exact mechanisms leading to that is a bit uncertain. But Kwame, there are some risk factors for developing the disease which we are very clear about, and I'd like to share some of them. One, being overweight or obese at the start of pregnancy. So it's very, very important for a woman to keep a healthy weight before they start the journey of pregnancy. The second risk factor is not being physically active. So Kwame, we can't stress this enough. This whole issue of walking, exercising, not living a sedentary lifestyle. You've got to be physically active. Kwame, you like tennis, so I'm sure you can tell us more about this particular example. I think Serena Williams was still playing professional tennis when she got pregnant up to a point.
Yes, even Osaka for a
yes,
little bit.
Naomi Osaka. Yes. I think Serena went into her 4th month or something before, she discontinued. And that's professional tennis. But yeah. I'm sure she was still working out. So that notion that when you are pregnant, everything has to stop, the woman doesn't have to be, physically active and all of that. No. Serena and Naomi Osaka they just blew that thing out of the water. So not being physically active is a risk factor. If you've ever had gestational diabetes in an earlier pregnancy, it also puts you at risk for succeeding ones. Kwame, I think we've spoken about polycystic ovarian syndrome in the studio before.
Yes, we have.
Which is a hormonal condition, a metabolic condition that predisposes women to developing gestational diabetes. In this PCOS condition, a female tends to get a lot more androgens, male hormones, so there's masculinization of the female, if you like, and there's something going on with their ovaries as well. Having a parent or sibling with diabetes, I think our friend mentioned that she had a grand aunt.
Yeah.
Again, I'll go back to it. Most people don't quite know their family medical history into great detail, because again, we are people, we tend not to share some of these things. Again, I would always push that advocacy for family medical history. You should know all the details, your cousins and all of that. So if you have a parent or if you have a sibling with diabetes, it's likely that will happen as well. If you're of a certain race or ethnicity, Africans, we have a higher tendency or a risk. So Kwame, these are some of the risk factors that predispose you to developing gestational diabetes.
But does it come with some symptoms as well?
Unfortunately, in its early stages, you probably will not get much in terms of symptoms and signs that will get the patient, a red alert for them to come to hospital. So it's quite subtle, and at an advanced stage, then that increased thirst, frequency of urination, and then maybe an increased appetite. Most of the time, because there's a routine, if you patronize the antenatal clinics, there's a routine. We check all the time. So we'll check your urine every visit. We'll ask you to pee, and then we'll do a very quick dipstick test, and we check for glucose in the urine. If that is positive, then the doctor is going to do blood tests, to try and nail the diagnosis. We also routinely would measure the size of the baby.
Okay.
And we use that with a common tape measure. I mean, the tape measure that the tailors and the seamstresses put around their neck. That's all. It must always correspond with the size of the belly. So, for example, if you are 28 weeks, for example, then if we take the measurement of your belly from the pubic bone, all right, to the top of the womb, that must correspond with the number of weeks, plus or minus 2 weeks.
Oh, really?
Or plus or minus 2 centimeters. Yes. So sometimes I always tell people, you can run an antenatal clinic from under the tree in my hometown, Boso. Because that tape is very good. So, for example, if a woman is, say, 28 or 29 weeks, Kwame, and they come into the hospital, and I take this the length of or the size of the abdomen, and I get 33 centimeters. That's way beyond the 29. Plus 2 centimeters, that should have taken me to 31 centimeters. But why is your belly about 33 centimeters if the measurement is correct? That'll be one of the first signs to let the doctor know that the fetus is bigger than its estimated age.
Okay.
Of course, if you have an ultrasound scan, then it makes it much more straightforward. Now, Kwame, let me discuss quickly some of the complications that can happen because of gestational diabetes, and the reason why our friend talked to us about her very difficult experiences.
Okay, before you do that, if you're listening in and you have a question, you might send us a WhatsApp message on 055 1111997. Okay? All right, Doc.
Right. So it may have complications for both the baby and the mother. So let's start with the baby. Your baby may be at a higher risk of what we call a high birth weight, fetal macrosomia. The fetus is big, too big. The woman is unable to push it out.
Okay.
And therefore, this baby most likely has to be extracted surgically. All right. You may be delivered early, or you may go into spontaneous early labor. All right, giving rise to what we call a preterm baby.
Okay.
Term is 37 completed weeks. So any baby that comes before the 37 completed weeks, we would call it preterm.
Right.
The baby may have trouble breathing. And this is where we have a lot of difficulty, because unfortunately, we don't have that many neonatal intensive care units dotted around this country. So if the baby comes out, may have breathing problems, then you need an ambulance to do a referral, to an appropriate center, and those are some of the difficulties. Unfortunately, the baby may also develop low blood glucose, all right, shortly after birth, because they are cut off from the mother's supply of blood, which is very rich in glucose.
Yeah.
That baby is also at a greater risk of developing type 2 diabetes later on in life, and theirs tend to develop earlier. So you may find somebody 25, 26, 28 years and they develop type 2 diabetes. If you go back into the obstetric history, then you probably would realize that their mother developed gestational diabetes.
Okay.
Such babies are also at risk of develop or becoming obese. So obesity now, it's not just a thing we mention about people's appearance. No, obesity is an accepted disease entity, all right, because it has so many adverse effects on your health. Sadly, it may be a stillbirth. You may actually lose the baby.
I see.
All right. The mother may also be at risk of developing high blood pressure during the pregnancy and going on to develop something we call preeclampsia, which is a very, very dangerous condition. There's also increased risk of surgical delivery. The best and the safest way to deliver is always vaginally, all right, unless there are some contraindications. So if we have to do a lot more cesarean sections, that comes with it a certain risk. Although the doctors, the team may be very well experienced with it, it is surgery and it will always come with its risk. That mother is also at risk of developing type 2 diabetes.
Wow.
So Kwame, these are some of the complications and these are the ways that the reasons why we want to talk about it.
So how do we prevent it then? How do we make sure our mothers don't go through this?
Right. So a few tips. But Kwame, I'd say that there's no sure way of preventing it because we don't quite really understand it. But these are a few tips that will help. Eat healthy foods. Choose a variety of foods that are high in fiber and low in calories. All right. Let's focus on the fruits. Let's do the vegetables. And let's do the whole grains, not the polished grains. And let's eat healthy portion sizes. All right. Very, very, very important. Secondly, let's keep active. All right. Even during pregnancy, unless your doctor tells you there's a reason not to, please let's exercise. Let's walk. Let's go for the walk. As one of my bosses would say, pregnancy is not an illness. Yes, it's a physiological change in your state. All right. Let's start pregnancy at a healthy weight. All right. So again, we talk about preconception care, at the start of the year.
Yeah.
Let's start pregnancy at a healthy, weight. Don't gain more weight than recommended during pregnancy. And to avoid that, we go back to points 1 and 2. Watch what you eat and then exercise much more frequently to keep that weight. The expected weight gain generally in pregnancy, you shouldn't add on more than 10 kilos.
Okay.
From beginning to the end.
Well, this is some real good information, and I'm sure the ladies out there would appreciate this. And even the men out there, please look out for them because you need to support the women as well in this quest. Yeah? All right. Yeah. Now, Nana in Sakomono sent a message and says, Lexis, please ask Doc, can the gestational diabetes cause miscarriage in early pregnancy? Okay,
so not early pregnancy, but it can cause, because remember, this diagnosis can only be made, is usually made in the second trimester from about 24 weeks onwards. That's when we usually make the diagnosis. First trimester, it doesn't count, the first 13 weeks, because then we will think that this person was diabetic and she brought the diabetes into pregnancy. Okay. That's a different thing. We're talking about women who were not diabetic ever. They're sure about that. And then they become pregnant. And during the course of the pregnancy, at some point, we believe something happens through the placenta and all of that that leads to alteration in hormonal levels. Okay. But yes, you can lose your baby. There's something we call intrauterine fetal death. The baby dies inside.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, that's scary.
Yes, so it's serious business. But when you look at the tips that we give, eating healthy, exercising regularly, keeping a healthy weight, these are things that I believe all of us can do to make sure that we hold this at bay. Yeah. As far as we can. There's some genetic component to it, and that's why we talked about siblings and then parents. So you may not be able to run away from it if your parents, both parents are diabetic, you're a female, you're 29, 30, you carry, you are at risk. But that is why you have to see your doctor for that preconception care. And then we'll make sure the dietitian is involved. We'll make sure we even get you a physiotherapist. So at Medicas, the whole team is there. Sandra is there with the diet. Derek is there with the physiotherapy. And then the medical team, the OBGYNs are also there. So we make sure that you get that comprehensive package to try and hold it at bay. And in Ghana, that antenatal clinic, that a system that we have, Kwame, it will always be picked up, because at every antenatal session, there's a very simple urine test. It can be performed in every corner of this country. That one, I can bet my last CD on it. It's very, very good. And that is why we encourage women to attend the antenatal sessions, once they get pregnant. It gives us a good opportunity to pick it up early and then make the necessary interventions.
Lexis, this topic reminds me of my pain.
Sorry.
I got pregnant last year, July. I developed gestational diabetes, and I was put on 2 different types of insulin injections and other medications. I lost so much weight, and I lost the baby to stillbirth in my 7th month due to placenta insufficiency.
Yep.
The most painful experience any woman can ever experience.
Sorry
So
to hear
really
that.
sorry.
Yeah, really sorry to hear that. But I think this crystallizes it and lets us know how traumatizing and how dangerous this condition can be. It is diabetes, and let us not take it for granted. Diabetes is a very, very dangerous disease, and it can even harm the unborn child. So we can do a lot about it. First and foremost, get checked. Go to the hospital and take a diabetes test. It's a very simple test.
Right.
P, let us look at the urine, for example, early warning signs. Okay? But if you ever decide to get pregnant, let us always take advantage of the preconception care.
Let me share this other message with you. Lexis and Doc, hi. I have 2 kids, currently carrying the 3rd. Before my first pregnancy, my doctor made me lose weight first.
Wow.
I was not allowed to eat certain foods like processed foods.
Yep.
I was made to stick to iron-rich local foods.
Sharp.
I've been doing that for all my pregnancies, but I still had big babies.
Right.
There's a history of diabetes in my family, so my doctors made sure I did OGTT for every pregnancy.
So the OGTT is that glucose drink our friend referenced. The oral glucose tolerance test.
Okay.
Where we mix glucose for you and try. It's a provocative test. We try and provoke the disease. If it's really there, it will show. And then we're able to intervene. But kudos to the doctor, the interventions he made, starting off the right weight. All right, right weight is absolutely important. And then sticking to the right type of foods. And that is why you must have this comprehensive care before and during pregnancy. It involves the dietitian, it involves the physiotherapist, and it involves your OBGYN.
Well, we want to involve you, Doc. What's your number so we can call you and involve you?
Right. So you come to the team. Telephone number 0501 477 340. WhatsApp 0501 477 340. Or you can come to us at number 10 Kincho Street, East Legon Hills.
We're grateful. Thank you. It's been a good one, a very informative session, and we're grateful that you shared. Yeah?
Yeah, you're welcome, Kwame.
Dr. Yao Osafo is the CEO of Medicas Hospital in East Legon Hills and Mampong Equiapim. Please reach out to him on those numbers or check him out on social media at Medicas GH. His team is ready to work with you and help you out through that